This is the Freego X2 electric dirt bike. My honest first impression when I powered it up and rolled out was that it blurs the line between a big e-bike and a small electric motorcycle. It looks and feels moto, but it has pedals and the power comes on hard. That dual personality is the hook, and it's what makes the ride both exciting and a little intimidating at the start. Key features you need to know. It's running a 3,000 watt nominal, 6,000 watt peak rear hub motor, a 60 volt 30-hour removable battery, that's 1,800 watt-hour, full suspension with about 120 millimeters of travel front and rear, hydraulic disc brakes, and 19-inch MTB tires. There's a city mode that keeps it around 28 miles per hour to fit into Class 3 e-bike rules, and an off-road mode that opens it up. The top number on the page says 50 miles per hour. From my experience, with my 180-ish pound weight and no wind on flat pavement, I saw 45 to 48 miles per hour on GPS. It's quick to 30 kilometers per hour, and the throttle response is snappy enough that I had to relearn smooth wrist control. If you're new to powerful e-motos, give yourself time to dial in your feel. Out of the box, I had a few reality checks. The included manual didn't help much, so I had to trust basic bike and moto sense. I went over every bolt. That wasn't optional for me. It was mandatory. A month in, my front wheel came loose because the axle nuts weren't fully cinched from the factory. After that scare, I started using a torque wrench and checking spoke tension. The included toolkit is fine for small tweaks, but if you plan to own this long term, I'd budget for better tools and blue thread locker. The battery is removable and heavy. I charge indoors most of the time. On the slow charger, I consistently see 10 to 12 hours from near empty to full. That means I plan my rides. The battery meter on the display isn't very accurate when the pack sags under load, so I learned to watch voltage readout instead of the bar graph. The LCD is readable in daylight, but on my unit the settings were locked in kph and I couldn't adjust brightness at night. I've seen newer displays with fewer menus, which looks clean but also limits what you can tune. On the road and dirt, the suspension does solid work. It soaks up washboard and small roots, and it keeps the bike composed on gravel and packed trails. The rear hub motor, though, adds a lot of unsprung weight. That means the rear wheel has a harder time following fast bumps, and you feel a thud if you try to hop curbs or land small jumps. I'd call it a powerful all-terrain cruiser more than a jumper. The 19-inch tires help stability, but the stock 2-inch width didn't love my rough roads. I got flats early on, 3 tubes in under 30 miles, and switched to thicker tubes and higher quality rubber. That helped a lot. Keep tire pressures checked often. Braking power is good with the hydraulic setup on the standard X2. And the bite is predictable. I had some mild fade on long downhill runs, so I'd keep an eye on rotor temps. The X2 Pro variant a friend let me ride had 4-piston calipers that felt stronger. If you're heavy or ride steep terrain, that upgrade matters. The frame on my bike is aluminum, which keeps the weight down a bit. The Pro's steel frame feels stiffer and heavier, more planted on straights, a touch less flickable in tight turns. Ergonomics land closer to a small motorcycle than a bicycle. Seat height is around 32.5 inches, and I measure 5'11", which fits fine. The pedals are usable to get rolling or satisfy local rules, but the geometry isn't friendly for real pedaling. The crank length and position made it awkward to put down meaningful power, so I treated the pedals like footrests with benefits. For new riders, quick note, a rear hub motor puts the power in the wheel itself, while a mid-drive sends power through the chain to the rear wheel. Hub motors feel simpler and punchy, but that rear weight changes handling off-road. Now the tough part. Reliability. I want to be straight. My charger died early. I saw E24 and E30 error codes a few times. The motor cut out mid-ride, then came back after a reset. Later, my hub motor started grinding and eventually seized at under 100 miles. That turned a fun ride into a long push. I retensioned spokes after the first rides, which wasn't in the manual, but is absolutely necessary on a heavy, torquey wheel. I also noticed surface rust popping up on some hardware after wet rides, so I started a routine: rinse, dry, lube, and check bolts. The taillight is a little exposed, and I can see how bottoming the rear could crack it. The battery contacts are not as sealed as I'd like. I avoid deep puddles and caked mud near that area. Support was a mixed bag. Email responses took a while, and getting warranty parts approved wasn't easy. When things moved, they moved. But I had to be persistent and supply photos, videos, and serial numbers more than once. That kind of process is frustrating when your main ride is down. I've also met riders who've put 400+ hard miles on theirs with zero drama, which makes this feel like a lottery. In my opinion, the variance in build quality is the biggest risk. The performance is undeniably fun, but your experience can swing wildly based on whether your unit lands on the right side of QC. It's perfect for someone who wants raw acceleration and a moto stance in an e-bike package, and who doesn't mind wrenching. If you love the idea of ripping dirt paths after work, climbing steep fire roads, and you're comfortable tightening spokes, checking torque, and doing basic electrical troubleshooting, the X2 scratches that itch. If you need a reliable commuter with predictable range and limited maintenance, this wouldn't be my first choice. From my experience, real-world range depends on terrain, throttle habits, and rider weight. The claimed 60 miles is optimistic. On hilly routes with a heavy wrist, I saw 10 to 15 miles before I started getting anxious. On flat bike paths with gentle throttle at around 20 to 25 miles per hour, I eked out a bit over 20 miles, and on a mellow day I got near 25. The battery is big, but the motor is hungry, and sustained high speed will drain it fast. Plan your rides and learn your voltage numbers. Key features that stood out most to me in daily use were the motor's punch, the comfortable suspension, the simplicity of the hub drive, and the removable battery. The weak spots were wheel durability with stock tubes, the accuracy of the display battery bars, the long charge time, and inconsistent QC. The brakes were good for the category, and I'd spec better tires and thicker tubes on day one if I could do it again. I'd recommend this for experienced riders who want an affordable taste of electric moto power and aren't scared to be their own service department. I'd also recommend it for tinkerers who plan to upgrade parts over time and treat the purchase as a project. I wouldn't recommend it for beginners who want plug-and-play reliability or for someone who can't afford downtime if something fails. In my opinion, the Freego X2 nails the fun part and stumbles on consistency. When it's working, it delivers that grin every time you roll on. When it isn't, you'll need patience, tools, and a backup ride. If you're considering one, be realistic about your skills, your local service options, and your tolerance for maintenance. In conclusion, the X2 is a powerful hybrid that can be a blast, but it asks a lot from the owner. I'm keeping mine because I love the rush and I'm comfortable maintaining it, but I'm also honest about its quirks, and I'm budgeting time and parts to keep it in shape. If this video helped, hit subscribe, drop your questions or your own X2 stories in the comments, and tell me what you want me to test next. Thank you for watching.